Luke chapter 21, we'll begin this morning in verse 24. We spent our last 2 weeks, I think, in Daniel chapter 9. This is in reference to what Jesus said in Matthew 24, verse 15, where he tells these apostles, when you read Daniel, you can read it and understand it, talking about the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple. What I want to notice, first of all, I said, and I just said, we're talking about the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple. We're talking about actually the destruction of the whole nation of Israel. It's not limited to just Jerusalem. This is, of course, what Jesus is talking about here in Luke chapter 21 and Matthew chapter 24. But this is going to be the destruction of the whole nation of Israel. And it's never been rebuilt since 70 A.D. Up until Luke chapter 21, but down in verse 24. Now, notice verse 24 before we get into verse 25, and this is where we're going to be, we're going to have some discussion, hopefully. I need your input, of course. Jesus says here about this destruction, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. All nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Description of the punishment of the people, not only there again in Jerusalem, but in all of Israel. They're going to be killed by the edge of the sword. Historians estimate that there were some 110,000 people died there in the city of Jerusalem. Some 90,000 people were taken captive. Outside of Jerusalem, there were some 300,000 people killed. So that's close to about 500,000 people killed there. When Titus, the son of Vespasian, the emperor at this time, besieged that city of Jerusalem, during Passover, that there was a lot of people that had come to Jerusalem there for Passover. Jesus had warned the people. Notice verse 20 of Luke chapter 21, when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the destruction thereof is nigh. Verse 21, then let them which are in Judea, this is outside of the city of Jerusalem, you're living out in the country there, y'all flee to the mountains, let them which are in the midst of Jerusalem get out, depart, leave Jerusalem, and not them that are out in the countryside there. Don't come to town, don't come to the walled city of Jerusalem, because you will not survive. He's given them a warning there of what not to do. When you see this happening, when you see this begin to happen, get away from Jerusalem. Run for the hills. During this time of Christ, Jerusalem, the nation of Israel was divided into three general parts there. If you've got the map up there, put them side by side. During the time of Christ, we had Galilee way up at the top up there, and Samaria in the middle, and then we got Judea down here at the bottom, all over across the Jordan River. This whole thing made up the nation of Jerusalem. After it's going to be destroyed, we're going to see here in just a minute, when they went back finally to Palestine, here's Israel today. A very small sliver, a very small part of what it once was. We'll have a little bit of a history lesson about that in just a minute. Not that any of that's important. But all these areas there, from Galilee to Samaria and across the Jordan River, on the east side of the Jordan River, down to Judea, all that's going to be destroyed. Everything. Not just Jerusalem. Everything in the path of this Roman army as it advances. Notice Matthew chapter 24, verse 21. For then shall be great tribulation. Notice as such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. There's going to be such destruction and so many people killed. The world's never seen anything like that before. Never seen anything like that since then. I've often wondered about the Holocaust, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. Would that include the Holocaust? And the punishment of the Jewish people? I don't know. I don't know. But notice what he says there, going back to Luke chapter 21. This is going to happen. This is going to continue to be until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. What's that mean? Several theories, of course. Until the times of the Gentiles, you know, the Roman army and the rest of the people, they're Gentiles. We're Gentiles today. Until the time of the Gentiles is fulfilled, the nation of Israel is going to be dispersed. Notice verse 24, led away captive into all nations. They're going to be scattered across the known world. You know, Rome at this time, the Roman Empire encompassed the entire region around the Mediterranean Sea. Do you have that up there, Andy? Yeah, there it is. The area in dark around that gray or brown line there, that's the whole Roman Empire. They had the whole Mediterranean basin, the whole Mediterranean Sea under its control, as well as England. I don't know if England, Britannia up there, that's England. They control the known world at the time, or at least the major part of it, the most important part of it, if you would. But the Gentiles are going to remain until everything is fulfilled. Now, is that until the Jews retake Jerusalem and Judea? Is that until when Christ comes again? Andy, come on now, Andy, shake your head. You went this way first. That's the way I'm going, Andy. I wanted you to agree with me. Well, it's going to be until the 1,000-year reign.
No.
No, okay. We eliminated that one.
You have to be real careful when you say when Christ comes.
Okay.
The fulfillment of the Gentile nation was when Christ came the first time. All nations would flow into the kingdom of Christ.
Yes.
That's the fulfillment of the Old Testament prophecy.
Yes.
You've got to be real careful when you start talking about the fulfillment of the Gentiles, because it's going to lead into premillennial theory very quickly.
Okay.
So be very careful.
Okay. But when everything has been fulfilled that God has ordained that's going to be fulfilled, that's when the time of the time of the Gentiles is going to be fulfilled. Is the nation of Israel ever, is it going to exist like it is on the left-hand side there anymore? The territory, the people? No. Does it exist today? No.
No. Israel exists today, but it is not the New Testament biblical Israel.
Right. Right. And of course, the land area is not the same, of course.
There are those that think God would be that it's the same Israel. It's the same word, but the nation of Israel of the New Testament does not exist in modern world today.
Right. I agree with that. Kyle, what would you do?
Yeah, I was going to say, in the destruction of Jerusalem, all of those records, those lineage records, all of that was done away with. It was destroyed. They have no way of proving it anyway.
Right. I might be over there in Israel now, and I'm claiming to be a descendant of Benjamin, but I have no clue.
No idea.
No idea. I just heard that. In
order to establish Israel today, you would have to establish the priesthood.
Yes.
You would have to establish the temple.
Okay.
You would have to establish Old Testament sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
We could probably get close to the Old Testament sacrifice because the Bible requires it for us. But you're not going to get close to the priesthood because, as Kyle just pointed out, all those lineages, Levites, are gone.
Yes.
It is physically impossible to establish the temple with a Levitical priesthood running it as the Old Testament law.
Okay. I never had thought about that, but yeah. But who's a Levite now that could be a priest? Well, I'll claim to be one.
But the most important thing is like what the Galatians says, the church, the Christians are the Israel of God now.
Okay.
That's the most important thing there.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I agree. Anyone have else, Jeff?
So a while ago you were talking about the Holocaust. Are you talking about the Holocaust with Nazi Germany?
Yes. Is that part of, and that's
so going back to what we're talking about here, if there's no Jewish people today, even though they claim to be Jews, then would it apply to the Holocaust? I would say probably no, right?
Well, I don't know. I asked that question and I don't know the answer.
But if there's no Jews,
there are Jews.
Were all the Jews eliminated during the Holocaust?
No, what I'm saying, but are there Jews today?
There are Jews, but they don't know who they're descended
from.
from.
I'm talking about Jews in God's eyes. I'm not talking about what I claim to be.
No.
I'm talking about, are there legitimate Jews in God's eyes?
No.
Galatians 3:27, there's neither Jew nor Greek.
Yeah.
Right.
In God's eyes, there's no distinction anymore. But yeah, there's obviously people descended from Jewish nation. I mean, there's
you're asking, are Jews physically?
Yeah, there's physically Jews. Yeah.
So I'm saying, you asked the question, would the Holocaust apply to that with the Holocaust,
The-
the Holocaust apply to
The pu-
this?
To the punishment of the
No,
Jews.
because there are no Jews today that it would apply to.
There is no true Israel today.
There was no, I think what Jeff's trying to say is there was no true Israel during the days of the Holocaust.
Right, and there was none.
During the days of the Holocaust, there was no biblical Israel.
Okay, but what my question was, and I don't have the answer to it, maybe I shouldn't even ask, but was this a continuation of God's punishment for the Jewish people?
I wouldn't think so.
No, because it had already been destroyed.
Okay, but there are still people who are physically
They
Jews,
were
but
claiming
anyway.
Jews.
And
They were
it
claiming
may
to
be, it may be a figure of speech. It may be like, like in Psalms it says, I'm the God of to 1,000 generations. As soon as 1,001 generations get here, does that mean he's not the God of them? It's like, it could be very well just emphasis and hyperbole almost, just to describe how bad it was.
Yeah, but that just occurred
There's
to
a couple
me.
different explanations.
And
for
what
that.
brought it about was what we just read there in Matthew chapter 24. No destruction has ever been seen nor will ever be seen with the destruction of Israel at that time. The Holocaust was pretty bad. Maybe that was worse. And it could be.
I've heard people who've read like Josephus and some of these things and the records of what happened, and it's awful. Like it's some of the most awful things you could think of took place at that time. So it very well could have, it probably was worse than what we know as the Holocaust and what was the atrocities of that. It very well may have been worse.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah, it was very bad.
It is very bad. Yeah.
That's what Jesus is saying. If you see all this, you better get out. Better get out.
Yeah, and he gave them warning.
Yeah, he did.
He gave them warning. Notice in where did it go? Matthew chapter 23. Had these folks been warned? Had the nation of Israel been warned? Matthew chapter 23, beginning in verse 34. Jesus is talking, and he's talking now to the scribes and the Pharisees here in Matthew chapter 24. He calls them hypocrites some 6 different times there. Notice verse 34, wherefore, behold, I sent you folks prophets, and I sent you wise men, I sent you scribes, and some of them you've killed and you've crucified, some of them you've scourged in your synagogue, you persecuted from city to city. That's what you've done to the people that God has sent to you. What are they going to do to God's only Son? They're going to crucify him and kill him too. They didn't care about all this. Notice verse 36. Verily I say unto you, all these things shall come upon these people, this generation that's living now. Verse 37, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you killed the prophets, you stoned them which are sent unto you. How often would I have gathered your children together, like a hen would gather her chickens under her wings, but you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it. I wanted to protect you. I wanted to help you. God the Father sent you prophets and scribes and wise men. He sent his only begotten Son. 2 Chronicles chapter 36 and verse 16, we referred to that last week. The wrath of the Lord arose against these people until there was no remedy. God was so mad at the nation of Israel. This is not the first time that Jerusalem was destroyed. He was so mad at them that there was no remedy, no way out of it. He was going to destroy those people. Wonder how he felt after his only Son was crucified. And then this destruction some 37 years later, 70 AD, the nation of Israel is completely destroyed. Completely destroyed. You think God was mad at them? Was through with them? He's turned now to the Gentiles. He wept over Jerusalem. Jesus did, But notice Romans chapter 10.
Before you leave verse 38, let me muddy the water.
Okay, go ahead.
Verse 38, see your house to you is left desolate, for I say you shall see me no more, till you say, blessed he that comes in the name of the Lord. There was a way out, but they had to accept Christ.
Yeah.
And if they accepted Christ, then they rejected the Judaizing system.
Yeah. Okay. But is there coming a time that they will acknowledge the Christ?
No.
Every knee is gonna bow and every
Well,
tongue.
that's judgment day.
Yeah, I know, yeah, but there is coming a time
Yeah.
that these folks will
You and I'll be
recognize.
there too.
Yeah, all of us will. There's coming, we might ignore him today, we don't have no time for him today, we'll have time.
But he is not coming back for a 1,000-year reign from the city of Jerusalem
Oh, no.
on the throne of David to judge the Antichrist and
No.
make a game on war.
No,
He is not coming. Jesus is not coming back to accomplish those goals. Those have already been finished.
right. But maybe they misunderstood. Give them a break. Maybe the Lord is just hot-tempered. Is he very patient with me? Yeah.
God is long suffering, not willing that any should perish, but
Yeah.
that all should come to repentance.
Yeah, Romans chapter 10, we get in verse 17, that's familiar. For faith comes by hearing, and hearing or listening to God's word, we know that, we understand that. But verse 18, well, have they not heard? Well, yeah. The sound of God's word went into all the earth, and their word to the ends of the world. But notice verse 19, well, did not Israel know? Maybe Israel missed it. Israel missed it. God's misjudged them. No, that's not true. Moses, go ahead.
If Israel missed it, the Bible is not true.
Yeah. Moses told them, where am I? I'm going to provoke you, Israel, to jealousy by them that are no people. That's the Gentiles. And by a foolish nation, I'm going to anger you folks. I want to make you jealous. I'm going to show you that you don't need me. Well, I don't need you. Verse 20 was Isaiah was very bold, and he said, I was found of them that sought me not. That's against the Gentiles. I was made manifest unto them that asked not after me. But to Israel, he said, all day long I'll stretch forth my hands to a disobedient people. I've bent over backwards.
What more could he have done?
What more he sent his only son. What more could he have done? They killed him. So now we're going to see the destruction of the total nation of Jerusalem. Now let's go back to Luke chapter 21. Let's get into verse 25 now. We think that was difficult.
Yeah.
Verse 25. I'm going to hear somebody. Well, let's read down through verse 28. Luke chapter 21, verse 25. And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars upon the earth, distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of the heavens shall be shaken, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the cloud with power and great glory. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draws nigh. What's he talking about? And now, folks, I've read after some pretty smart people. They don't even agree.
I know.
They're a whole lot smarter than me, naturally. Andy, go ahead.
Just for the sake of the class, I'll take the second coming.
You talking about the second coming? The sun and the moon and the stars are going to be darkened, and
I'll take the second coming.
the second coming. Okay.
I've read Wayne, he talks about, kind of apocalyptic language, and then 27 and 28 being the actual end of days, the second coming, the judgment day.
Okay.
I know there's other sides as well that tie this along with the destruction, the end of the destruction of Jerusalem, but with the just kind of being apocalyptic type language, with the stars being
Okay.
representative of something as opposed to any literal thing here.
Okay.
I know that doesn't help the discussion at all.
Notice what he said. That there's going to be some signs here. First, some signs in heaven: the sun, the moon, the stars. The sun's not going to shine. The moon, I understand, reflects the sunlight or something. So we ain't going to see the moon either. The stars aren't going to shine upon the earth now. There's going to be distress of nations. There's going to be perplexity or confusion among people. And the waves of the sea are going to be roaring now when Christ comes again.
The Roman army.
Okay? Is that, when Christ comes again, now, Andy, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. The waves of the sea are going to be roaring. Well, let's look at this.
The sea can give up the dead.
Well, yeah, okay. Okay. But verse 26, there are going to be people with fearful hearts. Seeing and knowing that these things are coming, the powers of heaven are going to be shaken. Now, is this literal or figurative and symbolic language?
Acts chapter 1 and verse 11, you men of Galilee, why stand you gazing at the same Jesus in like manner? Again, they saw him lift up into the clouds. Paul says in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, beginning in verse 12, but I do not want you to be ignorant, brother, concerning those who have fallen asleep, which have no hope. He continues on there, for you believe in Christ, you died and rose again. Even so, God will bring with those who sleep in Jesus. Notice down around verse 16, for the Lord himself will descend with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and the trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ will rise up. The trumpet of God is that power that he's talking about in the resurrection. And then verse 17, then we who are alive and together shall be caught up together with the Lord in the air, in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. There's
Okay.
the clouds.
Okay, and I agree.
Now, I'm going to take the second coming position. Some of y'all think, some of them think.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you.
I know, it's like an argument. I'm going to take the second coming position.
Okay.
It's real similar language to Matthew 24 verses 29 through 31. It's
Well,
very similar
Very
language.
similar, but we're going to go there.
And that kind of ties into more of the destruction. I don't know. That's a tough one because I've heard them, people go back and forth on.
I didn't say I was
24.
agreeing with it coming, so I'm going to take it.
You're gonna take it at least, okay. Like whether or not Jesus is going back and forth in 24 as well of true end time or actually the end of this age. So it's kind of tough.
Well,
But I think
let
you
me-
can
go
say
ahead.
this is pretty confident. This is not literal language.
Okay.
Now, what he's talking about, I'm not quite so sure, but I think
Okay.
we can be fairly confident of that. I don't know.
Okay.
I think
What? Go ahead.
the Roman army was so powerful that maybe in this generation, they've never seen the destruction that's gonna happen, and they're gonna have great fear, great stress, and, I think it just goes back to the power and might of the Roman army and the destruction that's about to happen, and their world is gonna end.
Right. Their life as they known it is over. Over. We need to keep this in the context now.
Thank you.
What were we talking? What is he talking about? He's just talking about the destruction of the nation of Israel. Now notice verse 3. Well, let's go to Matthew chapter 24 now. I'll mention this. We're going to spend a little time in Matthew chapter 24. Matthew's account of this is a little more descriptive than what we have in Luke there. But he's essentially saying, well, notice verse 29, Matthew chapter 24, verse 29, immediately after the tribulation of those days. Now, immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun is going to be darkened, the moon's not going to give her light, and the stars are going to fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Notice verse 34, verily I say unto you, that this generation of people shall not pass till all these things are fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my word that I've just told you, count on it. It will happen. I think he's talking about, again, the destruction of Israel. Arlene, you have your hand up?
It says in verse 30 and 31, where they see him in the clouds, and he sends his angels in a trumpet and gathers his elect.
Yeah? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. Are the stars going to fall out of heaven when Christ comes again? I mean, I guess they could.
The elements will melt with a fervent heat, is what Peter said.
Okay. But we've got things that are going to happen in the heavens. The sun's going to be darkened, the moon's going to give its light, the stars are going to fall out of heaven. Here on earth, people are going to be scared out of their minds. They've never seen anything like this. Nothing like this has ever occurred before. Their life is over, as Jeff just said. As they knew it, their life is definitely over. Notice, if you would, has this type of language now ever been used before? Go with me, if you will, to the book of Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah. notice is Jesus repeating some things that's recorded in the Old Testament regarding the destruction of other people. Isaiah chapter 13, beginning in verse 1. I'm in Isaiah 30. Let's go to 13. Isaiah 13 and verse 1. This is about the Babylonian Empire. The burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amos did see. Isaiah is going to prophesy something about this Babylonian Empire. Notice beginning in verse 6. Howl, Babylon, for the day of the Lord is at hand. It shall come as a destruction from the Almighty. Therefore shall all hands be faint, and every man's heart shall melt. That's what we read in Luke chapter 21 and verse 26. People's heart are going to faint. They shall be afraid. Pangs and sorrows shall take hold of them. They shall be in pain. As a woman that travaileth in childbirth, they shall be amazed one at another. Their faces shall be as flames. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh, cruel, both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. Now notice verse 10. The stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun is going to be darkened in his going forth. The moon shall not cause her light to shine. Now notice verse 13. I'm going to shake the heavens, and the earth shall remove out of her place in the wrath of the Lord of hosts in the days of his fierce anger. Did that happen during the destruction of Babylon?
Yes, it did.
Did it? The stars fell out of the sky.
It was as if.
As if
these
these things
did,
are. It is going to be so devastating.
Yeah.
It is going to be so grotesque. It's going to be so darkening that you won't be able to see anything.
Okay. Absolutely. That's what it means.
Let me put it like this to you. If a nuclear bomb was to go off on K Hill right now, and I'm sitting right here at White Park, what, 2 miles maybe?
Mm-hmm.
It'll be so bad that there'll be no vision, there'll be no feeling, it'll be total shock.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna pass out from just what just happened.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the emotional side of it, as well as the physical destruction, is going to be so intense until there's going to be no recognizing it.
Yes, and we're going to be so shaken and afraid. I won't know if the sun's shining or not. I won't care.
I won't care. I just want to get to
I just want my life
I
back.
want to get to the moment. I want to breathe 5 more minutes.
Yes.
That was the state of these Israelites when the Roman Empire took Jerusalem.
And that's what Luke chapter 21
They
means.
did not know what was going on.
Right. I
I mean, we sit right here safely in a White Park building in Vernon Parish, Louisiana. But if there was a nuclear bomb dropped right now, 30 seconds from now, would we know what we came from? Would you know,
Now, who would know
would you know where to go?
No.
Would you know what to do?
No.
You'd be speechless, wouldn't
Yes. Yes.
you? That's kind of how this Israelite felt, or this Jew felt, when he was in the city of Jerusalem. It did not just affect the temple. It did not just affect Jerusalem. It affected all of Israel, the whole region.
Absolutely. From the way up north there, starting in Galilee. You know, when the Roman army invaded,
If you'll notice,
They
right
started
in the Roman
burning
Empire, when the Roman Empire took over Jerusalem, Jerusalem was just a very small amount of the whole Roman Empire.
mm-hmm,
Rome was conquering the entire world as a world power.
mm-hmm,
And there just simply was the little Jewish nation of Israel. They had nowhere to go. What could they do? They couldn't fight against the Romans.
no,
I mean, it'd be like me taking my slingshot against a B-1 bomber coming at me.
mm-hmm,
I mean, there's nothing to do.
mm-hmm.
You're helpless.
Yeah. But the Roman Empire already occupied, go back to our two maps, they already occupied Israel. The problem was Israel didn't like to be occupied, and I wouldn't be occupied by China here today. I'm going to do everything I can to get rid of them. There'll be insurrections, there's going to be all kinds of stuff going on to get rid of these folks. That was the problem. And Vespasian, the emperor, got tired of all that.
He said enough. Go down and solve the problem.
Go down there and wipe them people out. I'm tired of fooling with them. And that's what he did. But he started way up there in Galilee, north. And he danged down through Samaria. You think that the people in Jerusalem knew that this huge army was coming?
No.
Why?
They didn't have the communication technique we had.
Yeah, but they got people running ahead of them and telling people They've destroyed Galilee.
They might have had some forewarning, but they had no expectation.
Yeah, I don't think they woke up one morning and here Jerusalem is surrounded by this army. What happened? Where'd they come? No, they had some forewarning.
But they didn't understand the magnitude.
No.
They knew it was happening. They knew it was coming. Christ told them.
Yeah, he told them, but they didn't pay that no mind.
The Jewish people of all people should have understood this language. Like, hey, didn't I read that from Jeremiah? You know, that they of all people should have recognized this type of language.
Yeah, and that's what was that literal? No.
It's just,
No, that was, you know, he's used that language before. You know, when Babylon was destroyed, that's when Daniel was there. Belshazzar, the king, he had seen the handwriting on the wall, remember? Daniel interpreted that dream, and he said, you know, you're fixing to lose your kingdom. Daniel chapter 5 and verse 30 of that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Babylonians, slain, and Darius the Mede took the kingdom. Daniel doesn't say anything about, you know, the sun disappeared, the stars fell out of the sky. And, you know, he didn't record none of that. Was that literal?
His world ended.
Huh?
His world.
Babylon's world ended. Yeah, but not, you know, that wasn't. No, go back to Isaiah. What Christ was saying there about the sun, moon, and the stars in Luke and in Matthew, that wasn't literal. That wasn't literal. That had been said before. Isaiah, where are we at? Isaiah chapter 23. This was done numerous times. Isaiah chapter 23, verse 1. This is about Tyre. The burden of Tyre. The burden of Babylon. The burden of Tyre. How Tyre? Notice chapter 24, beginning in verse 21. This is still about the burden of Tyre. Isaiah 24:21. It shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall punish the host of the high ones that are on high, and the kings of the earth upon the earth, and they shall be gathered together as prisoners and gathered in the pit, and shall be shut up in the prison, and after many days they shall be visited. Verse 23. Then the moon shall be confounded, the sun will be ashamed, when the Lord of hosts shall reign. The sun's not even going to be shining, and the moon can be confused whether it needs to shine or not. That literally happened.
Notice the end of verse 23. For the Lord of hosts will reign on Mount Zion and in Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm. But that's figurative language. It's going to be so great. I don't care if the sun's shining or not. I need something to eat. And I'm hoping to survive the day. Is the sun shining? I don't know. I didn't even notice. You know, and maybe the stars fell out. You know, their life is over. You know, I think that's the situation. Notice Isaiah chapter 34. Isaiah chapter 34, beginning in verse 4. And all the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, and all their hosts shall fall down. All the hosts of heaven. Sun, moon, and stars are going to fall down as a leaf falls from a vine, and as a fig falls off of a fig tree. Sun, moon, and stars are going to fall out of heaven. That's not literal. That's figurative. Notice Jeremiah chapter 4 rather. Has that ever been told to Israel before? This is about the sun and the moon and the stars. Jeremiah chapter 4, notice 5 and 6. Declare it ye in Judah and publish in Jerusalem, and say, blow the trumpet in the land, cry, gather together, and say, assemble yourselves, and let us go into the defense cities. Set up the standard towards Zion, retire, stay not, for I will bring evil upon from the north and a great destruction. Notice verse 23. I beheld the earth, and lo, it was without form. This is after the destruction, and void in the heavens, and they had no light. There was no light in heaven. Behold the mountains, and lo, they trembled, and all the hills moved lightly. And beheld that there was no man, and all the birds of the heaven had fled. I behold, and lo, the fruitful place was a wilderness. All the cities thereof were broken down at the presence of the Lord, and his anger was fierce. For thus saith the Lord, said, the whole land shall be desolate, yet will I make a full end. For this shall be the earth born, and the heavens above are going to be black, because I have spoken it. that literal? I don't think. I think, like Jeff said, these people are going to be so afraid and upset and frustrated and out of their minds with fear, and I would too, that they're going to think that the stars had just fell out of the sky. What was that fable that used to be that somebody was running through town and hollering, the sky's falling?
Chicken Little.
Chicken Little. Okay, I don't remember. Okay, but that's probably the way we would. We've never suffered like this, but things happen in our lives that are sickness and death, and we're just very down, and we don't know if the sun's shining or not, and I don't really care if the sun is shining today. These people were really going to go through something very, very traumatic. And they're going to be in a very, very bad state, and they're going to think that the whole thing has collapsed around us. Everything.
War has always done that.
Yeah.
Whether it was World War I, World War II, pending judgment. War has always brought a state of desperation.
Yes.
Desolation.
Yes.
I mean, Ricky, I've not been associated with a lot of them, but you think about sitting in the World Trade Center in New York City, typing on your computer, trading buying whatever. We had a wholesaler that used to work at the Trade Center. Going about daily, and all of a sudden, the tower falls around you.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to care what you were doing 30 seconds before it fell?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
You think about the people that's in Israel today. It's in Gaza Strip when Hamas invaded, and then all that happened. The average citizen didn't care who was on the throne or who let go. They were looking for self-preservation, for safety.
That's human.
Their whole world ended, and it became dark for them.
Yeah.
And I think war has always brought that reaction.
Yeah, and it is. If it comes down between me and you, it's going to be
You
me.
lose.
You're going to lose. Andrew, what you got to say?
Those people back when 911 and them two tires wrecked, if somebody told them what was going to happen the day before, they would have not went to work or believed it. They would have been there just like I would have thought.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Their world is.
Well, if they'd have said, the Lord has told me to tell you up, I'd probably go on to work. Hey, the Lord don't mind. We've had some intelligence that this may happen tomorrow, and I ain't going. I ain't going since
We
they're
see them
thinking
do it
that.
all the time, little town, something other happened in that little town, and then people will say, we didn't think nothing like that would ever happen here.
Sure.
Nothing, this is,
Sure.
I believe it, I wouldn't believe it if I saw it, but we're the same way.
Yeah. And we're out of time. But anyway, I want to say now, and we'll discuss this further next week. Again, Matthew chapter 24, beginning in verse 29, going down through 35. Is still talking about the destruction of Jerusalem. When you get past 35, but of the day and hour knows no man.
Then you're going to switch.
Huh? Now we're going to swap.
May the heaven and earth pass away.
Yeah.
My word will, the heaven and earth will pass away, but my word will never pass away. But of that day, the day that heaven and earth will pass away, that's when you make the switch.
Right.
You do the same thing here, and I think you do the same thing here in Luke, around verse 32 and 33, because he says, surely I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away till all these things come to pass.
Absolutely.
What are these things? Everything that he said before.
Mm-hmm. Would Jesus sort of mix up this conversation just to confuse somebody like me? He did that on purpose. No. No. If you go back into verse 30 and 31, it's going to appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and they're going to send his angel with a great sound. He just threw that in there, and now we're going to go back to the destruction of Jerusalem. And then we're going to get through that again, and we're going to start about the hour of the day. I don't think he did that to just confuse me and us. No. He concludes talking about the destruction of Jerusalem. And, notice the question back in 24 and verse 3, these apostles, Peter and Andrew, James and John, they've gone to Jesus privately now on the Mount of Olives. They've asked him, when is this going to be? Talking about the destruction of the Jerusalem and the temple. He's already told them this is going to happen. When will this be? What's going to be the sign of your coming and the end of the world? those three questions are one and the same. To them,
Yeah.
when this happens, all that's all the same thing. Verse 34, when is your coming to the end of the world of that day? Now, to answer your question back there, no man knows the hour. Why didn't Jesus tell him it's going to be next Thursday? Did Jesus know?
Only the Father.
Jesus didn't know. No man knows except God the Father. You know, why confuse the apostles? You know, he just
There
told
won't be
them.
any signs for that.
No, there's not going to be no
Nothing
sign.
to look for on
No.
that.
Is there going to be signs of the second coming?
When you hear the trumpet sound, I think there will be a
For
trumpet
one
sound.
sign.
Yeah. Is there going to be other signs the day before?
Yes.
What will it be? What's going on right now?
As a thief in the night.
There will be no signs of the second coming of the Master. When he returns, it'll be over, it'll be quick.
Well, that's what we were saying. No, there will be no signs.
As a thief in the
No,
night.
no warning.
By the time you hear the trumpet, it's too late.
It's over. Yeah.
It's done.
That's the reason we need to
And that trumpet's gonna be,
redeem the time because the days are evil.
that trumpet's gonna be the trumpet of victory.
Yes.
It's not gonna be the trumpet of battle cry.
No.
It's not gonna be the retreat, it's gonna be let's go home to glory.
Yeah. And that's what it means for God's children, for the
God's
symbol.
chosen people.
Yeah. Those, the dead in Christ will ride first, and those that remain will be caught up together with them to meet the Lord in the air. That's the trumpet sound, the trumpet call for everybody to get ready for
If
that.
I knew he was coming, I'd be at Floyd Cemetery when he died.
Yeah, but we don't know. So when they're asking Jesus, when are you coming back? I don't know. That was the answer to that question. God the Father knows the hour and the time, but I don't know. And then he's going to describe that in a little more. It's going to be like in the days of Noah. Those people paid no attention, and so they were all saved. No, they paid no mind. And they all drowned.
Don't you know God loved all those people? He's a God of love and mercy.
Yes.
And that Bible story it's just something to entertain you with.
No. That's a warning for me. I'm sort of asleep now as I go through my little daily life. I'm just sort of asleep. I'm not worried about any of that stuff because he ain't coming in. He's never come in my lifetime, Andy. I know that. So is he coming in my lifetime? Probably not. No, he ain't coming in my lifetime. He might come today. I don't know.
He's long suffering, but his judgment won't. I mean, his patience won't last forever.
No, it won't. His wrath arose against that people until there was no remedy. It must have been pretty bad. Worse than it is today. It must have been pretty bad.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed the discussion this morning. Thank you so much for helping me. We'll discuss about this, him coming in clouds of the air, the angels sounding the trumpet next week.